Well, welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I am your host, none other than Pastor Plek. I'm so glad to have every one of you joining us as we're recording live here from Austin, Texas. And joining me in the studio today is none other than Mrs. Catie Sas. Catie, how are you?
Doing great.
Awesome. And also from the Cody Sparks band, Cody Sparks.
Still here.
So we got some great content today, specifically on a question. Well, actually, we first got to go back to a wedding that you just did, Catie.
Oh, man. Yeah.
What happened?
I would love to talk about it. So this past weekend, I had the most unique wedding in a lot of ways that I've ever had so far. So I've had this wedding booked for like maybe a year so far. And 3 weeks before the wedding, I met with a bride.
What do you do again?
I'm a wedding photographer.
Got it.
Sorry, forget to mention that. We talk about logistics, we talk about timeline, we talk about wedding party, we talk about anything that we need to discuss prior to the wedding to where we're both on the same page. And all of these meetings typically go the same. They're all pretty similar. We talk about boring timeline and logistics stuff. And then any family dynamics that I need to know about. So this meeting, though, in particular, I say, oh, yeah, and then we'll do bridesmaids photos and groomsmen photos at this time, da-da-da. And she goes, well, we're not gendering it. We're saying brides people and grooms people. And I was kind of thrown off. I mean, I just kind of go, oh, okay, and I keep talking. And then later we go over the wedding party, and she just casually brings up, as we talk about bridesmaids dresses. And she kind of goes, well, I have a couple like my sister's non-binary, we have two trans men. Is it like where
who knows?
It's a dude that wants to be a woman. So is that a trans woman?
Whatever. Yeah. So it's a man that wants to be a woman.
Yes.
Okay.
And so at that point I'm kind of like, oh wow, I didn't know about all this. And then not that would like deter me from doing the wedding, because for me it's all about, if it's a same-sex wedding, that I won't do it.
Right.
But wedding party, I can't really tell you who can be in your wedding party. And so and then there's a lesbian couple on her side. So, and then she let me know that she said, yeah, so there are like 6 different people.
How did she find you? Like, just because you're amazing?
My neighbor's sister. It's like all kind of in this neighbor family group. And so I did her daughter's, there's no easy way to explain. So just through connections.
Word of mouth.
Connections, neighbors, families, it's all just connected into one. It's all one big family.
Sure.
So, like, I knew of her and her fiance, and I was just kind of like, yeah, they seem great, and I agreed to the wedding, and we signed contract and everything, but I didn't really know a ton about her. Yeah. So she's like, yeah, there's probably about six of us that are like in the LGBTQ, like queer community. And I was like, wait, 6? I only counted 5. And she goes, oh, well, I'm bisexual. And
wait, does she count as 2?
No, there were 5. Yeah. So there were 6. It's a lot of math. No, what is she counting?
No, I mean, I thought you said
there was... Why did you ask if she counts as 2?
Well, because you said there's 5 people, but there were 6. And so I thought you meant that she was like...
Trans bi.
Could go either way.
Yes.
Oh, no, I don't know.
She does go either way because she's bi.
Well, yeah, so I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she goes, yeah, I just happen to be marrying a dude. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wait, the bride was bi?
The bride was bi, but she's marrying a dude. And so I'm kind of like so personally, I was like, well, I mean, she's marrying a dude. Like, I'm not doing anything that's like against my moral code. Like, if she was marrying a chick, then obviously it wouldn't have agreed to do the wedding in the first place. But I was like, well, you know what? It's 3 weeks before the wedding. They've already paid. Like, I'm not going to just drop them and be like, well, your wedding party is too LGBTQ for me. You know, like, I can't do that.
Right.
And that would be wrong personally too. Like, that would really screw them over. And
and you have an opportunity to be a witness. I mean, I feel like it's not like you're going there and affirming everybody's relationship.
Right,
you're going there
exactly.
to take pictures, and
Yes.
so you're
I'm
going
there to do a job.
Yeah, and who knows what conversation could come from that.
Yeah, and I got to get to know them, and like, if I were to know the wedding party, like, there was a guy that wanted to he wanted to be a woman, but he still had a full beard. And didn't, like, he still looked on the outside like a
So hold on,
dude.
can I?
But
Do you think this is a cry for attention?
No, this guy wasn't. This guy, you could tell, like, he was sad.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it was a cry for attention.
It was just like, my life is so miserable.
The statistic is most people that are in the LGBTQ community that question their sexuality, that question their gender, were sexually abused as children. I mean, that's a high percentage
sure.
of individuals that now question their sexuality and question their gender because they were abused by someone as a child.
Right.
And so with this guy, I was just like, man, like, you can tell he's really sad. Like,
how do you know he's sad? And that may
there was just something, like, and I kind of developed a big soft spot for him. And I called him Anna. It's like, I don't know his other name, and so I called him Anna. But I never used pronouns. Like, obviously, if you're with him, like, I'm not going to use pronouns, and I'm not going to be a
Good job, Catie. That was some good verbal discipline.
I'm not going to be a jerk.
Yeah.
There were stronger words I wanted to use, but I'm not going to be a jerk. You know, like, I'm going to be kind. Like, you can be non-affirming and also kind, and that's like, and if I was like at a barbecue with all of them, that would be a different setting. You know, there's a time and a place to be confrontational, and there's a time and a place to not be confrontational. And so that was the time and a place for me to go do a job, be kind, and I was not invited into a conversation to have a personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't, like...
Technically, you were there to do a job.
Yes, I was there to do a job, not have personal opinions on their lifestyle choices.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about, like, because when you were talking with people, and was there a time when someone said, hey, they just kind of came up and, sad Anna just was like, here's my life story, anything like that?
No. I mean, wedding days are chaotic and busy, and I knew that there wasn't really going to be a time. Like, I was prepared. I'm always prepared to defend my faith, and I'm always prepared to, like, be honest and share what I genuinely think. And I believe that you can do that in a non-hateful, non-judgmental, non-critical way.
How would you have done that? I mean, if Anna came up to you with the full beard and was like, I'm just really sad. I mean, do you break into the gospel there? Do you? I
would have asked him very personal questions. Like, if I was given, like, I wanted it. I wanted the chance to be able to, like, sit down with him and be like, hey, like, tell me more about, like, when did this journey start for you? Like, when did you start questioning who you are? Like, I would have loved to have gotten to know him more, to where I could be like, hey, do you want to get coffee with me? Like, do you want to, like, let's go grab coffee, and I would love to get to know you. Because some of these people that identify as trans have never met a loving, kind Christian. Well,
and I'd say on the flip side, a lot of Christians don't meet LGBTQIA people just because we don't run the same circles. You know, and so, like, in those rare times when you have a, I don't know, where you cross, where your job crosses into their world, that's an opportunity that I don't think comes around very often, just because our lives are really busy.
Yeah.
And so unless there is a purpose of you interacting with someone, like your kids are at the school together, you're doing a wedding where you're going to meet with somebody that's completely not and it's not just LGBTQ. You could call it like, I mean, you don't hang out with strippers unless strippers come to church, which thankfully they do at our church. And the LGBTQ community comes to our church on Sunday and they get to hear the gospel.
The wedding industry is full of sin. I mean,
sure.
Like I take pictures of plastered people all the time.
Wait, drunk people.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, plaster.
Wow.
I was like, man, I was just thinking like they had like they were
plaster pears, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking
that's not what I.
Yeah, we got it now.
Thought. Anyways,
we got it.
Took me like a full second.
Yes.
Like people get completely drunk at weddings. I take pictures of it. There are girls that show up that look half naked. And I take pictures because that's my job. I'm there to take pictures of their day. And so I can't, it's just like that situation. I'm not going to walk up to a chick that shows up in a dress where her tits are hanging out and be like, hey,
can you cover that up so I can take your picture?
Yeah, can you not be so immodest? Like, I'm there to do a job.
Yeah.
And so, if I were to treat this wedding any differently than I treat others, then that would make no sense. Because then what I'm saying is your sin is greater than their sin. Yeah. And that's not a thing.
Yeah. I'm grateful that you are who you are. And it's such a weird place to be and difficult. I think when I lived in Dallas, I would go and be in the neighborhood of trying to share Christ.
Neighborhood? Is that what you called it?
That's what they call it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they called it the neighborhood. Because his name was Don. He came to my church, and then we met, and then he wanted me to meet his friends, and I think I got taken to a drag show or something, and
those are honestly kind of fun. But
yeah, and so I was sitting there going, okay, I was so uncomfortable, and they were like loving the fact of how uncomfortable I was.
Yeah.
But that's where I got to talk about Jesus, and
exactly.
And was able, it was sort of wild, right, to befriend that community to where he eventually, my friend Don, eventually repented, which is sort of wild to think about. But it did take a lot of...
Kill him with kindness.
Yeah, and it was just such an odd thing, and I felt so uncomfortable so many times, and was like, it just was not comfortable for me. So, but it got me to a place where I didn't...
But they knew where you stood.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a seminary student, and I got introduced as this conservative Republican Christian, and so that automatically, they didn't know how to handle that. They were like shocked that I would be in their presence. And
but back then, it wasn't... If that happened today, I feel like it would be a whole lot worse for you.
Yeah.
Because of the way times are.
Sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, it's because the extremist conservatives are loud. They're the loudest. And so it looks like they represent
everyone,
the whole conservative community. And it's like, no, we are not all that crazy.
Right.
We are not all that insane.
Right.
And it's just like with the LGBTQ, there's so many letters, community.
They're not all in your face crazy either. That's
they're
right.
Not
you're
all
right.
insane. They're not all crazy. They're not all super insane flamboyant.
Right.
They're not all crying out for attention. Some of them are genuinely just sad. And they felt alone, and then
I think they're all genuinely just sad
them in
because they don't have Jesus.
Oh yeah, there's a deep sadness.
I think there's straight people that are just sad.
Yeah.
Right.
There's all people that are sad, and so my whole goal, and this family, they know where Ryan and I stand. Mm-hmm. They know we're Christians. They know a lot about us that we never really talk about because I think they're afraid to offend us or something like that. But they know, they found out that we were not super pro-vaccine during COVID, and they still hung out with us, and they still loved us, even though they were the people that would do toast to the boosters coming out. They were all super pro, and a lot of the controversial issues, they know that we're pro-life. They know that we're, I'm assuming they know that we're not pro-LGBTQ, but they also know that we're kind and that we're not gonna, I don't know, if they were also going to church, if they were also saying, yeah, I love Jesus, and sometimes at the wedding, there were like scripture read, and I was kind of like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Like, why even read scripture?
Yeah, there was the ceremony was in a Methodist church.
Well, the Methodist church is.
Oh, are they gay affirming?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And so maybe that's why. And
Well,
so
it's choose your own adventure in the Methodist church. If you want to be gay affirming, you can be. And so I'm assuming that would be a gay affirming Methodist church.
it had to have been. And so, yeah. So
Here's a question on the side, since we're talking about this, it keeps going in my head. Do you think it's a red flag if a bride has like a bride's man?
Yeah.
No, I've done weddings like that before.
But you don't think
it's-
that's like a weird that,
It mean like to me,
or a
it
guy
was-
has a girl like in his wedding party?
Yeah, that's
No.
a problem.
I think that's a red flag.
Red
that
flag.
means it just you don't have friends.
Well, or you don't have. This is where
The
I
right
feel like
ones
you
is
don't
what
have
I mean.
real, like you don't have genuine friendships with your own sex, and so, like, because
Is it like one? Like the groom has a girl and all like the rest are guys.
I guess. Yeah, maybe.
I've done a handful of weddings
Yeah, but-
where I like.
I'm not
I know
saying- I'm not
we've
saying
seen
like-
them, and I think that it exists. I don't think there's a problem with it. But do you think that's a red flag, like in
like
the
what
relationship?
kind of red flag?
like for their marriage,
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong to do it, but do you think that it's like, why don't you have enough guy friends?
And why
Maybe
not put
for
them
the
in the wedding
guy.
Let's
party.
just hold on. But if let's say you had a really good female friend, why not put her in the bridal party? Because
Right.
isn't she there to support both
because
of you?
if she can be
Correct.
both friends,
Right, 'cause
she can
that-
be friends with both the bride and the groom.
Then she's legit. But if she's only the dude's friend, that's
Maybe that's a little bit interesting. But if for the bride's side, if there's a bride's man, then he's usually gay.
right.
Usually.
Sure.
And if not, then I don't know.
I had a
But-
girlfriend once that had zero girlfriends,
That's
just guy friends, and that was later. I mean, that's a big red flag now.
is that the one I know of?
Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, she could not have.
Hey, way to go, not marrying her.
Thank you. I went against people's advice. And
I may have
didn't.
told you to marry her, but yeah, definitely you don't want to marry her. That I didn't realize she had no girlfriends.
No, not really. No,
Yeah, that's not good.
that means crazy.
Well, that means that person has. Okay, so here's what I've learned, and now I don't know how we got on this subject, but what I've learned with like marriage counseling, what happens for a woman is she usually treats the husband like she treats her same sex friends, and if you don't have any of those, that's where you're going to go into a vacuum. And so because I mean, it's not like sex is always going to be this thing that's like, you know, sex and the forbiddenness of it really is electric when you're not married. And then once you get married, it's like, yeah, it's a thing. It's just not the main thing.
I just don't even know what to think about it because I don't live with that reality, like at all.
Well, but going back to old Catie, let's just go back to the Catie that I met you when you were 19.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have gone down that path.
I could have only had guy friends.
Yeah, because you were a cool girl that was fun and like you do weird stuff, especially then, and girls couldn't handle it. But guys go, she's cute. I'll maybe this will get me somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think you could have gone down that path, but the Lord brought you around early and plus you had what, 4 brothers? 4 brothers?
4 brothers.
4
yeah.
brothers, and so you were very comfortable with dudes.
Very comfortable, yeah.
Okay, so I think there was a potential for you to go down that road, but I don't want to say like the Lord saved you from that specific thing. Obviously,
Well,
He did, but
the Lord put me in friendships that were anti that.
right, because Catie Foster was
Well, all my best friends when I first started, like when
Katie
I first
Foster was
became
the
a Christian,
epitome of a wonderful woman who knew
Yeah.
how to have woman friends. She was
Yes.
like the champion of that.
Like literally, my first couple of years of being a Christian, all my best friends were now pastors' wives.
That's amazing.
Like I was the girl that they befriended that like whenever we'd go out to eat or something, I was the only one that got a margarita and they all got Dr. Peppers. Like that's how all of our like friend dinners were. And so, yeah, like they're all either some form of pastor's wives.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Wow. What does that say about you? I'm not really sure what that says.
Maybe I'm just super likable or something.
Yeah, something like that. All right, so we were actually going to start on this. Like, we went down a rabbit trail that I thought was fairly interesting.
You're welcome.
Okay, so here's a question. Got this question recently. Why isn't prenatal pre-parenting counseling for expecting parents as prevalent, available, and or encouraged as premarital counseling? Do you think it should be? What do you think?
So what I was thinking of was, like, you know how in premarital counseling, there's kind of an ultimatum. Is like where, like, oh, should you or should you not get married? You know, whereas, like, if you did that with, like, people who want to be parents, that would be easier than someone who is already, like, pregnant or something, because maybe.
Exactly. You're going to have this kid no matter what.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Right. So, like, you better get your crap together. But, like, if you're like a couple and you're kind of, like, praying about having kids, maybe you are undecided. Like, it sounds good, but then the reality of having children is freaking hard. And so, like, that would have been kind of cool, I guess, to go through. But then it also kind of depends on who your best friends are. Yeah. Like, are you friends with people with kids? Because that's kind of an introduction.
Well, okay, so here on the prenatal thing, there's several things that are different, okay, or prenatal, pre-parenting. So there's, like, for example, are you going to spank your child? Not spank your child. Are you going to, especially and that usually is way off from the point, like.
You can't possibly know.
Should you, because are you going to make your baby food, or are you going to go buy it from the store? Are you going to do formula? Or are you going to do breast milk? And all those are both right options. And so I feel like, or, could be right options. I know people have opinions all sorts of ways, but there's nothing that says you have to go this way or that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I feel like, or nothing in the Bible that would say go this way or that. So when you get to, like, should I breastfeed or not breastfeed? Okay, you've got so many different questions, and there are books that go through all of these things. But to take a class it would take longer than your pregnancy to get through it all.
Yeah, well, because when you're pregnant, there are things like nursing classes. There are delivery classes.
And do you remember any of that stuff? Like, I remember we went to like the breathing classes before we had Austin, and I thought it was hysterical. Yes. But it was fun, right? I thought it was kind of fun because I didn't have a kid, and we didn't have a kid, anyone to watch our own kids, and it was just, life was sort of, we went to a hospital for a class, hooray! And it was wonderful. It was great. But what we learned was that none of that stuff mattered. Like, zero. Like, we made it through. I don't know if Adrian breathed right.
Just get the epidural and you don't have to breathe at all.
Right.
Just push the thing out.
Exactly. Or don't. Or don't.
And that's the other thing. You could go in, and this is our birthing plan, and this is how it's going to go, and this is what we're going to do. And then you'll get in there, and then they're going to go, this isn't happening. We're taking you back for a C-section. And everything is wrecked.
And all your dreams, all your plans,
and you're
over.
like, but I can't believe this is happening.
Well,
so it's like,
It's like just before I had kids, before I had Ava, I totally thought that I had this whole idea of what discipline was going to look like. And then I became a parent of Ava and discovered that it was like, that's not the way that it's going to go.
Really? You mean you can't just tell them to do stuff and they just do it?
You can't just beat them into submission. And I just thought,
that's good.
I totally thought maybe, just.
Or you could go in like, oh, I'm going to be one of those parents that are, like, so earthly and have, like, cloth diapers and then wash them every day. And then you get a week into that and go, this is absolutely disgusting. No, we're not doing that. Let's just do regular diapers.
Yes.
Right.
I didn't go through that, but I know people that did.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
There are so many parents that would say, oh, yeah, before I was a parent, I thought this way, and I thought I was going to be this kind of parent, thought that I was going to be this kind of mom, and then I became a mom, and that is not the case anymore.
So the short answer to this question is there's so many things to talk about when it comes to parenting that each phase is different. So I will say Adrian wrote a paper that she sends only to moms who ask. And I don't know.
Wait, yes.
Yeah.
I got it. It's the best.
Yeah. So.
What to expect after you have the baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's pretty graphic. It's pretty intense. And she just, like, tells you exactly what you need to do if you're going to go the route that she went, which I think it fits for a lot of different routes. But like if you're going to the hospital specifically,
it's pretty general. Like it's good. Like
okay,
yeah.
I don't think I've read it.
Yeah, I mean,
but
you don't need to read it.
Yeah, so the wild part about it is that she'll only give it to you if you ask. But I think that's because she doesn't want to insert her opinions in your life,
right?
Unless you're wanting them.
It's funny because it's kind of this known email. Like it's like when I was pregnant and I was like in my 3rd trimester and I'm freaking out about stuff. Yeah. Like, because when you've never pushed a human out of your body.
I haven't.
You kind of don't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
And you're panicking.
Yeah.
And
so that email came.
Well, so I was telling Katie Foster about it. And I was like, dude, I'm so worried. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, how is this going to work? How am I going to push a cantaloupe or watermelon-sized thing out of my vagina? Like, how does this even happen? And so then she sends me a video. It's a YouTube video of an actual delivery where the angle is not in the face. The angle is not where you want to see. And so then I get even
Was it like full frontal or what?
I start the video and it is literally of this woman, legs are in the air and the head, you see the baby's head.
I saw this video in 6th grade.
I was like, what? And I'm like panicking, but it's like a train wreck. You can't look away. And so I'm just watching. And so then I become even more petrified of this, of having a child.
So it wasn't helpful when she said that.
No, it was not helpful. And I told her, I said, why did you send this to me? And she's like, well, you were worried about like what it would look like. And I was like, no, I didn't want to see someone else do it. Like, and so then she's like, well, here, let me tell Adrienne to send you her email. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, Adrienne sends this email to like new moms and stuff of like what to expect. So it's like so then Adrienne forwards me the email, and that was way more comforting.
Okay, good.
Than the YouTube video that Katie sent me. And so it talks a lot about like what you're, and I know that y'all are 2 dudes, but I'm just, for the women listening.
Yeah, right.
You know to ask Adrienne for this email because it talks about like what your boobs are gonna do whenever you give birth, like what you're like
get milk,
like what's gonna happen to your body when milk comes in, and it's not hospitally, like it's not doctory at all. It's very just
layman's
woman
terms.
to woman. Like, this is what's gonna happen to your nips, okay? Like, this is what you need. This is what you need for your vagina. This is what you need for your for your boobs. This is what you need. Like, these are the kinds of maybe underwear you need. Like, this is, and it's gonna hurt. Like, your boobs are gonna hurt for like a solid week, and I was like,
I'm glad I didn't read it.
I was like, oh, this is nice to know. And
yeah, thanks for sharing.
And so, like, just sometimes I don't know why I'm on this, but
all right.
So tell you how thankful I am to be here today.
So, thanks for sharing all of that. All right, so
it was.
That's great.
Yeah.
I answered
Thanks for the question.
All right, yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So, do I think that should be a class? No, I think there's a good email.
Do your own research.
No, yeah. It's not that I'm like God made birth and how women's bodies operate and all that. That's wonderful. It's so good.
It is a wild thing, though. The whole process is crazy.
It's wild. It's crazy. And I'm really excited that there. So listen, if you.
And husbands get really good at getting you water.
Yes. I was a champ at ice. So, hey.
Well, we went through it with COVID. So I couldn't leave the room. So we were getting hand and foot service.
Oh, wow.
It was like, hey, do you need more water? We'll bring it right to you.
Oh, that's impressive.
It was great.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan had the audacity to take a nap while we were in the hospital. So that was fun.
What'd you want him to do? I mean, were you in labor?
No, but I was like up for like 48 hours.
So don't you want him to get a little
a baby that like.
Okay, but like.
Okay.
Hold on. You don't want both of you to be exhausted. Like, you gotta give somebody else. Do you want him just to suffer with you?
I guess he was allowed to nap, okay? But
I mean,
if it wasn't for like the postpartum nurses that would come in and like keep me company and stuff like that.
Well, what did you want him to do?
I think it would
I
be
just
harder.
wasn't expecting him to nap.
You had like a job to do then with like nursing and taking care of the baby, but sitting there doing nothing and just staring,
Does that help?
I would fall asleep.
Okay, fine. Okay,
But if I had a feed with a bottle or something, then I'd be more
did you need
awake.
to like rub your feet while you were nursing? I mean, what was the sort of the expectation there?
Well, so like because of COVID policy, they weren't allowed to take her to like take a nap. Like they weren't allowed to put her in the nursery there.
Uh-huh.
Where like usually they would do that and be like,
Where'd you give birth
you
at?
can St. David's Round Rock.
Yeah, that's where we did all of us.
And so like I think I slept maybe like an hour for like 48 hours.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's brutal. But you do want him to sleep so you guys don't both go home absolutely wrecked.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Fair enough. All right. So I'm just trying to bail you out, Ryan. Looking out for you.
Way to help him out.
All right. So I hope that answers that question. All right. We're going to come back next time with another question on contraceptives. So we're going to wrap it up here. But hey, if you want Adrian's email, go ahead and text us at 737-231-0605. Ladies out there, if you want Adrian's email about what to expect when you're expecting to give birth, she will send it to you. And yeah, it's not proprietary information on it or anything. It's just Adrian's perspective on it. And for some reason, it's been a gold mine of info. And so you can take Catie's word for it that you'll want it. So text us at 737-231-0605, asking any question you want, faith, culture, everything in between. Or visit us at pastorplek.com, and we'd love to hear from you. So from our house to yours, have an awesome week of worship.